All right, everyone, we are going to wait a few minutes before we get started. Let people log in. If you're watching the recording, just be patient. This will start soon, I promise. If you have questions and you're here on the live webinar, please put your questions in the chat box. We will be addressing them as we go along. And again, just be patient. We'll start in just a moment. All right, everyone, we want to be respectful of your time. If you're here on the live webinar, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Diana Graber. I'm the author of Raising Humans in a Digital World and also the founder of Cyber Civics and CyberWise. I'm here today with Peter Kelly, who is our outreach director at Cyber Civics. So if you've ever contacted us, it's likely Peter you've interacted with. So thank you so much for taking time to talk about why digital literacy is today's literacy. So without further ado, let's get started looking at some headlines here. If you've been watching the news, you know that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services released a warning, or the Surgeon General at least, released a new advisory about the effects social media has on youth mental health. Kind of the top line here is that while social media has some benefits, there are ample indicators that social media may also pose a risk of harm to mental health. The White House has taken action to this and has put together a task force to look at the possible negative effects of social media amongst youth. Just a few weeks ago, the American Psychological Association, the APA, they issued a health advisory on social media as well. Theirs was a little different though, and I really liked it, and I urge you to read it. They actually issued 10 recommendations based on the scientific evidence to date. If you're interested, I wrote a little blog post about it on Psychology Today. There's a link if you want to take a deep dive. But I really loved looking at their recommendations. I thought they were spot on. What jumped out to me was their recommendation that adolescents should be informed explicitly and repeatedly in age-appropriate ways about the manner in which their behaviors on social media may yield data that can be used, stored, or shared with others. I think that is so important. So I really loved their report. As a result of this, you know this, I don't need to tell you, teachers are on the front lines of this battle. How do you prepare kids for this new world that they're in? And we know that some states are taking individual action. In my state, for example, California, there's a media literacy bill making its way through legislature. More and more states are doing this, requiring schools to teach this as part of the school day. All right, so this stuff is not going away. I want to point to the latest Pew Research Center data. We know that 54% of teens say it would be hard to give up social media. I think it's more than that. This is the world that they've been brought up in, they live in. It's going to be really hard, or if not impossible, to turn back the clock. So we know it's changed childhood significantly. So this is childhood, or at least the teenage years, really not so long ago in terms of how long humans have been on the planet, right? This is what it means to be an adolescent today. So the way they're socializing is really, really different. And I'd like to share some excellent research on this with you. This is how we know it's different. It's asynchronous. It's not happening at the same time. They might start a text that starts today and goes into 2 weeks from now. It's permanent and public. Everything they do is stored online forever for the world to see. That's pretty heavy burden on teens today, I would say. They feel like they need to be available 24/7 for their peers. And I think this really has a lot to do with the anxiety that we're hearing that kids are experiencing, that need to always be available. Absence of social cues. You know, when you're online, you're not really seeing facial expression or tone of voice to indicate what someone's feeling or thinking. Quantifiable. Everything they do is numbers, right? How many friends do I have? How many people like my post? How many followers do I have? Visual, super visual culture. They really are impacted by these images of perfect beauty or what other people are doing or seeing. And then finally, this is the one I think is so concerning, algorithmic. Algorithms are largely deciding what our teens see, what they like, what they are interested in more than they are themselves. So this is a really, really different way of growing up today. So how do we prepare them for this really different world? So we're going to talk about that. We believe the answer is digital literacy. I love this definition from Media Smarts. Digital literacy is a wide variety of ethical, social, and reflective practices that are embedded in work, learning, leisure, and daily life. So we break this up into three parts. We believe the beginning of it is the foundation. It's digital citizenship, which is a safe and responsible use of digital tools. Information literacy is where we go next, and that is how to find, retrieve, analyze, and use online information. And then finally, media literacy, probably the most important element, especially today. And that's how to critically evaluate and creatively produce media. All right, so through Cyber Civics, that's how we address digital literacy. We actually have 3 different levels. Each of those topics I just mentioned, they're aligned with the 3 years of middle school, 75 lessons. They're hands-on, interactive. Most importantly, they're developmentally appropriate. My background is in media psychology. I came out of Fielding's media psychology program, worked with a lot of my colleagues to make sure that we were really meeting kids where they are up here. And I think that's really important. Today, we're tested and used in classrooms in 48 US states and internationally. And it's all aligned with the educational standards, ELA standards, tech standards, and the SEL competencies. And finally, we are not aligned with any tech companies. That's why we charge a very small subscription fee. Nobody pays us to teach what we do, except for the schools that use our curriculum. So we are able to be very truthful with kids about things that they deal with every single day when they're online. So I think that's very important. Okay, when we were putting together the curriculum, it was very important for us to make sure that we met the 4 pillars of learning framework. I think that's key. I will quickly run through them with you if you're not familiar with this. Number 1, active learning. Does it require thinking and intellectual effort rather than simply engaging in cause and effect interactions? Definitely. Pillar 2, engagement in the learning process. Does it engage student in activities versus information delivery? Absolutely. Pillar 3, is it meaningful learning? Content is meaningful to the students' everyday experiences and taught in a manner that can be contextualized within existing knowledge. Absolutely, they're dealing with this stuff every single day. And finally, social interaction. This is so important. The degree to which students can interact meaningfully with the content and with other students. And we think that's key when you're teaching kids about the digital world. Take it offline, go with their peers in a classroom, talk about the norms and the standards they want to take to their online world. So we were really intentional about meeting these 4 pillars. All right, so one other thing before we take a look at some of the specific lessons. We think middle school is a great time to teach this. Here's why. As you know, before 12, which is kind of the beginning of middle school, children tend to engage in concrete thinking. So if you're teaching them this stuff, it's basically black and white, yes and no, do and don't, right? And that's because a child's capacity for abstract thinking is really limited by their stage of development. And ethical thinking requires abstract thinking in order to do this important work, which is extracting universal principles governing moral conduct. So we are really focused on teaching ethical thinking. We think kids need that more than anything when they go online. This is why nearly everything they will do in the digital world will require ethical thinking. For example, should I share something that's inappropriate? Should I like something that, isn't very nice? What about cyberbullying? Do I engage in it? What do I do if I'm the target of it? Do I answer someone's request for a nude photo? Fake news, how do I know if it's fake? How do I know if it's real? How do I know if it's legitimate? What if I'm contacted by a predator? And finally, clickbait, do I share it? Do I click on it? All of these things that happen every single day online require that higher order thinking that really starts happening in middle school. All right, so finally, both Peter and I have taught cyber civics for quite a long time. I personally know these 3 things don't work when you're teaching kids about their digital world. Lecturing them, very ineffective. They know, especially I did not grow up with this stuff, so we're not going to be the ones to lecture them about their world. Number 2, pet peeve of ours, one-time assemblies. There is way too much to this world to figure it out in 1 hour. It's a waste of your money and time, frankly, because kids need way more than 1 hour to talk about what's happening in the digital world. And then finally, fear doesn't work. They're really excited about being online. It's where their friends are. It's where the fun is. So you can't really scare them away from their digital world. So we have a little different approach that I'm going to walk you through. Again, I'm going to say real quickly, Peter will be answering questions as we go along. So if you have any, please put them in the chat box. He's happy to answer them, especially if you can't be here for the entire webinar. All right, without further ado, we're going to take a look at level 1. This is our digital citizenship level. These are basically the topics that we address. If you are not familiar with digital citizenship, it is the safe and responsible use of digital tools. So I'll show you how it works with one of our early lessons in this unit or in this level. We're going to talk about the principles of citizenship. This is really important because we all know how to be citizens in the real world, right? We've been here a long time. We throw kids into this new digital world without really understanding of what it means to be a citizen. So that's one of the things we address up front. When teachers use our curriculum, they actually get their own portal, and in the portal they get the lesson plan, the slides, a student packet, something to send home to the parents. So it's really easy for teachers to use. And this is the PDF that they get. It's basically a script that tells you how to deliver the lesson. In every PDF, we've aligned the lesson with the standards, the ELA, tech standards, and the CASEL, SEL competencies. Then you get some slides, and I have a couple of slides pulled from this lesson that I'll quickly walk you through, the 5 principles of citizenship. So every lesson usually starts with some questions that you can discuss with the students. Have you ever ridden a bike? Have you traveled in a car? At a red light, did you stop? Did you slow down? Did you keep going? How did you or the driver know what to do? Have you ever played soccer? Would you enjoy playing if there were no rules? What if no one kept score, if there was no boundaries? What if players could foul each other with no consequences? So this is a really easy discussion to have. Generally, this is done in 5th or 6th grade. So everyone's played soccer. Everyone's been in a car. Very easy to answer and talk about these questions. We have kind of a clarifying card after that. Citizens are guided by rules, rights, and responsibilities that are generally understood and agreed to by all community members. So that's basically the understanding that you're taking the kids to. In addition to your script, we give you slides. Slides. And within the slides, we have these little videos that we make. So I'm going to play you just a few, maybe a minute or so of the video that goes in the slides for this lesson.
When you're out and about in the real world, how do you know how to be a good citizen? For example, what stops you from simply tossing your trash on the ground or taking home a candy bar you haven't paid for? How do you know how to pay attention to traffic signals? Or to say hello or good morning to someone passing you on the street? Or even to help someone who's fallen down? Humans have been around a long time, and during that time we've learned to follow certain principles of citizenship. These principles help us know how to treat one another so that we can all get along. When we follow the principles of citizenship, we live together peacefully and happily. One of the most important principles of citizenship is honesty. In simple terms, this is being truthful and fair. For example, an honest person doesn't say things or spread rumors that are not true. And an honest person also admits when they're wrong.
So I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing, but basically we teach the kids the 5 principles, which are honesty, courage, responsibility, respect, and compassion. And then every Cyber Civics lesson includes, well, let me wrap that up really quick. So the lesson goes on and we ask kids to think about communities that they belong to in their online world. Offline world, in the real world. It's hard to distinguish between the two. And so they talk about like their classroom community or their state, they're part of that community, or even their country. So we get them thinking about communities they already belong to. And then every Cyber Civics lesson has an activity. So the activity for this lesson is we break kids into little groups of 4. Their task is to think of at least one example of how members in that community might demonstrate each of the 5 principles. And then we have them either write it down or create some artwork from it. So I'm going to show you an example from my own classes. One of my groups of students decided their classroom was their community to discuss, and I love the things they wrote. For example, for compassion, they wrote, if someone was sad and they were alone, you would be compassionate and comfort them. Or respect, when you are working on a group project, you would respect the other people by asking for their ideas and being a good team leader. So pretty simple for them to take that concept and think about how they're already doing that within the communities that they belong to. Here's an example of a soccer team. I love some of these. Courage, have courage to play well and give it your all, even if it means you might get hit with the ball or get hurt. So I thought that was kind of funny. So anyway, The next step is the lesson that follows. We talk about how to take those same ideas and principles to the online world. It's called How to Be a Good Citizen Online. And so for this lesson, I really have fun doing this one. I put large poster boards around the classroom. I have the kids think of a community they just talked about. For this example, they think about like an online chat group that they all belong to. That's a community. And then for the board that says compassion, I have all 5 around the classroom. They have to go up and write something like, how would you show compassion within, a group chat? So don't leave anyone out. Don't text after arguments. If you wouldn't say it in person, don't put in a text, use kind words. I mean, it's lovely. So it helps them take those principles and start thinking about how they would do that in the online world. So really love that. Just real quick, we did some focus groups this year for Cyber Civics to see what teachers thought about it. And the number one thing that they told us they liked were these activities that I just talked about, the hands-on activities to really get kids working and talking together. They also like the fact that Cyber Civics really can be delivered to meet all kinds of learning styles. So what I just described to you can be taught without any slides, any videos, just you talking to the kids and having them discuss, do activities, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, where you could literally put it online and have the kids do the lesson. So I do it in the middle. I like to do a lot of the talking, interacting. I also like to use the slides and the videos because the kids love them. All right, so, and then this is one of our testimonials from a teacher saying that she really likes how it hits all the different learning styles. Okay, so we're gonna move on to digital reputation. That's such an important thing to teach kids about. This is why. All these headlines that we see every single day of kids losing opportunities to go to college, to get scholarships, to get jobs because of posts that they did in a moment of adolescent stupidity. So I hate seeing this. I want it to end. The Harvard story from a few years ago, where a bunch of students that were accepted to Harvard lost their acceptance because of something they posted, just broke my heart. So we need to curb that in the bud. And the way we do that, this is one of my favorite lessons, digital background check. So for this lesson, we start talking about what a digital reputation is. Every online activity, like posting a photo, commenting on a social network, even visiting a website, can contribute to one's digital reputation. And again, little video, I'll play just a few minutes for you.
Have you ever heard this saying before? Your reputation precedes you. What is a reputation anyway? It is the judged opinion that people in general hold towards something or someone. So, if your reputation precedes you, that means that people will have probably heard things about you before they've even actually ever met you. These things could be positive or negative, or even true or false. And the place where people will have probably learned things about you before they've met you face to face is here.
So anyway, it goes on. Then I tell the kids the story, some students lost their opportunity to attend Harvard University because of inappropriate online posts that impacted their digital reputations. So the activity for this lesson, they have to pretend that they're college admissions officers. Their job is to decide which of 2 final candidates will be the lucky recipient of a full athletic scholarship to your college. Make your decision based on each applicant's digital reputation. So the first applicant here, David Downing, talks about how he's got a high GPA, he's in the science club, he wants to be an urban planner, blah, blah, blah. So then we look at his digital reputation, which we put together. And here we see that our future urban planner has TP'd a neighbor's house and put it on Instagram. He says he's in the science club, but if you look at the Facebook page for the science club, evidently he got kicked out for never attending a meeting. And he also posted a tweet that was not very nice about the @Green Mountain Diablos. They played like little girls, #losers. So usually the students see this, they're like, no way, we don't want him. Let's look at the second candidate. So here's our second candidate, Sarah Adams. She's the senior class president. She has a very high GPA. She's in the honor roll. She runs in the high school track team. She wants to major in English and become a writer, and she's got a food blog. So part of her reputation is we look at her food blog. Immediately the kids point out the misspellings and grammatical errors in it. So we take a look at the honor roll that she says she's on, but yet her name does not appear on the honor roll on the school website. And then finally she tutors. We look at her tutor page and see that she is very late and she's not prepared and she has a low rating. So generally the students are way harsher on these poor fictional applicants than any adult would ever be. But I love this lesson because there's a second part to it that helps kids understand that you really have to be critical about the things you see online. For example, they jump to the conclusion that Sarah lied about being in the honor roll, but then we say, hey, her name didn't appear on the school website. Do you think every school regularly updates their website? Is it possible that whoever was responsible for the website at Sarah's school just hasn't gotten around to updating the list of students? So that usually gets kids to go, oh my gosh, like this is a very complex world. So very deep lesson, really fun to teach. The other thing about cyber civics, and I think is really important for any digital literacy curriculum, is that it also is an SEL lesson as much as anything. We got this little blurb, cyber civics is an intentional deep dive that teaches emotional intelligence as much as it does digital citizenship. That's why we've aligned everything with the CASEL SEL competencies, so you can see which we're meeting with each lesson. And we do this very deeply during our cyberbullying lessons, which are so important. We really start having kids understand that behind every screen is a real person with real feelings. I think sometimes that gets forgotten by kids who are so excited to go online, early on. So in fact, we have a lesson called that, Real People, Real Feelings. And this is a real interesting one to do too, because we talk about avatars, which kids use, especially when they play games, and the fact that it's really easy for people to hide real feelings and even physical attributes behind the avatars they use. So for this lesson, the activity is they have to draw their own avatar and they have to think of 3 words to describe what their avatar projects. So in this case, one of my students drew this, which I thought was pretty cool. And they said their avatar was cunning, independent, confident. So then they turn the cards over, and on the back, they have to think of their avatar as an online mask. Write 3 words or phrases that describe certain things or even feelings their mask could let you hide from others. And this is the kind of stuff I get every year from 6th graders. A little bit sad, not very confident, sometimes lonely. So I collect the cards, mix them up, read some of these things aloud, and they start to understand that kids are hiding a lot. Like when you go online and it seems like everyone's living their best life, that's not always the case. That, the online world really allows you to hide a lot of these deep feelings. And that builds on kids' existing empathy, which is so important when you're talking about cyberbullying and digital drama. We have 5 lessons in this unit. I just surveyed my own 6th graders at the end of the year to see what lessons they liked the best or they thought were most important. Every kid thought this was the most important unit. They are very aware of cyberbullying and digital drama when they start going online. So we do a whole bunch of lessons. One that I really like, well, let's talk about this for a moment. We know that 90% of social media using teens who have witnessed online cruelty say they have ignored mean behavior, and more than a third have done this frequently. And more than half the time, bullying would stop within 10 seconds if someone intervened. That is incredible data. So we need to do a better job teaching kids what to do when they see it, because they're seeing it. They just don't know what to do. So one of the important lessons we have in this unit is our upstander lesson. That's someone not involved with the incident, but who steps in to help anyway. Someone who empathizes with the target, letting them know they care. Someone who encourages a target to talk to a trusted adult. As you know, by signing up for this webinar, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it afterwards, we're giving you a bunch of lessons that you can try with your own students. This is one of the lessons that you'll find. I'm going to give you the link at the end of this webinar. All right, so we try to really engage the different learning styles. So for this lesson, we have a comic strip, and it tells a story of a boy who's being cyberbullied, and the story doesn't end. So the kids have to either draw or write an ending to this. What happens next? This kid basically, flubbed up a skateboarding trip, and people shared the video, and he was really embarrassed. So the ending, one of my students actually continued drawing. So believe me, this takes a long time to grade. But I loved their solution was like a little email to the boy saying, "Hi, Luke, ouch, I hope you're okay. I see what happened. Your wheel came loose, blah, blah, blah." And then the kid went to Google skateboarding tricks and sent it to his friends so that he would do better tricks in the future. So I love this because it gives kids ideas that there's all different ways to step in and be upstanders. And if someone's being treated cruelly online, you can help them by give them a helping hand in many, many different ways. So really fun to guide kids through this understanding. The last unit in our level 1 is a really important one too. It's about identity and privacy. As you know, kids at this age are just beginning this separation ideation process when they separate from their family of origin and start figuring out who they are. So we talk about that. I just taught this lesson. The kids loved it. Myself, my selfie. When we talk about the early selfies, which were basically self-portraits, right? So these people drew themselves, and we still today look at these self-portraits and make judgments about them. So we talk about what you ascertain. Frida in the middle is thinking about Diego and her forehead. I mean, so much information is being giving away from these images. And then the activity that goes along with this lesson is, imagine you have to upload a bio picture to a social media site you just joined. But the problem is the camera hasn't been invented yet, so you have to draw it. So these kids draw their own selfies, and then we talk about them. What do your classmates' selfies reveal about them? What conclusions might others draw about your classmates based on their selfies? What might the images you post online say about you? And that's important, and here's why. Platforms like Instagram, you probably know this, even if your account is private, your profile photo, name, and bio are public. So these kids that join Instagram so young, put up a silly picture, a ridiculous bio, you go to Google them, that pops up. It's just embarrassing, right? So we want kids to understand that everything you do online, you have to be really thoughtful and respectful of how you present yourself. All right, I just took you quickly through level 1. Thank you for sitting through it. It's so important, but it's just a start. And we realized that the first year we started teaching cyber civics, we realized that kids needed way more than just this foundation of how to be a good citizen. So we looked at the research, and we found that in focus groups, many teachers suggested that despite the current generation of middle and high school students being raised in the digital age, they are often surprised at how poor their students' search abilities are. So that's what we do in level 2. Before we do that though, here we go. This is kind of an overview of what we do in level 2, searching the web, search queries, looking at a results page, personal information, algorithms, filter bubbles, on and on. But before we do that, we have 4 really important lessons to set them up. We always take a look at how kids are spending their time online. So we have 2 really fun lessons on that. And then online safety, because that's very important. Before they start using the internet as a research tool, we want them to be safe and know how to protect themselves. I'm going to share just a few moments of a video we just finished with an online safety tip that you should know about. So hang on here.
While scrolling through his feed one day, Ramon noticed that he received a new follower request. Most of his followers were people he already knew, but this new follower looked like a girl his age, so he accepted. Suddenly, this mystery girl began sending Ramon messages, asking him personal questions and sending him photos. She asked him to send her photos in return. Ramon thought her behavior was fishy, so he went to check out her profile. He realized they didn't have any mutual friends. So, Ramon typed her name into a search engine, but he couldn't find any info about her. Finally, he put one of her photos into a reverse image search. This is a service that allows you to quickly discover visually similar images on the internet. He discovered that all of the photos she was using came from the account of a totally different person. Ramon was being catfished.
So catfishing is a big deal with these kids, and definitely something that they should be aware of. If you want to look through the news, there were some really sad stories of, I think, particularly 2 high school boys that had been catfished and were so embarrassed that, it ended in bad consequences. So it's super important for kids to know about that. In our focus groups, the teachers also told us that they love the videos. And I know from personal experience, when I walk into the classroom, they're like, Mrs. Graver, do we have a video today? So they're all short. They're like 2 minutes long, but they're engaging. We have over 60 new videos in the curriculum this year. So hopefully the kids will love them. All right. So searching the web, really important unit for kids to learn how to use the web to search, to evaluate search results, to understand how to use the information they find. So we've got a bunch of lessons on that. And I'm going to show you, this one's so important. And we update the curriculum every year. We're in the middle of it right now. This will get updated last. And the reason is Google changes how they do this every single year. It is completely updated. So that's the other thing when you're looking at digital literacy curriculum, make sure it's current because this stuff changes so fast. In this lesson, we always tie in to the previous lesson. So it's sequential for the kids. It makes sense. So they talk about their previous search queries. And then we teach them how search engine results pages work. That's the page you get when you search for something, and they're hard to read. Every search engine is different. So I'll just show you, this is from last year. What is a search box? What are filters? What are the ads? What is the knowledge panel? All of that stuff changes, and it's important for kids to realize like where their actual results are because they can be hidden in these pages. And then their homework or a little quiz at the end, they actually have to take a page and find all the things that we just talked about. So that's such an important information literacy skill. The unit that follows that is personal information, and that really goes hand in hand with searching. As you know, when you search Google, Google knows what you like because it's collecting this from you. So we want kids to understand how and why that happens. And also vocabulary is so important in this unit. All these things, algorithms, third-party, cookies, web beacon, that's the vocabulary of their day, and they should really understand what these terms mean. So we do that in a couple ways. We have them read the privacy policies of the things that hopefully they're just about to join. Hopefully they haven't done it before they're 13. They have to look for these terms and understand what they mean. And then the quiz for this unit, they actually have to do a word check where they match the word to the definition. So I think that's very important. You would think kids don't like this, but they do, especially because they do it together in person with teams. I happened to teach this unit one year, and shortly thereafter, we got a visit from the Today Show, and my students were so excited to tell them about personal information and these privacy policies. So I'm going to play just a clip from that for you, so you can see how excited they were to talk
now
about
with an
this.
entire generation of kids growing up with social media as familiar as a good old PB&J, one program is trying to teach them how to protect their data online before it's too late. With Facebook facing fresh backlash for sharing people's personal information without their consent, these kids in California are reading the fine print.
Yeah, we've been learning about like privacy policies and terms of agreement.
It freaked you out?
Yeah, it's like,
You guys have friends in 7th grade, obviously, outside of this school and outside your class.
Yeah.
Do any of them read the terms of agreement on social media?
No, I know. Yeah,
But they admit they feel the pull.
Who texts?
So I just laugh. I'm laughing here to myself when I see that, because I remember after teaching that unit, all the kids at that table deleted Snapchat from their phone because we had just read their privacy policy, and they were like, "Oh, I had no idea they were collecting all this information from me." So I'm sure that didn't last. Who knows how long that lasted, but the knee-jerk reaction was like, "Holy cow, this stuff is being collected from me, and I had no idea." So it's really eye-opening when the kids do this together in the classroom and talk about it. The unit that follows is copyright. And again, we survey our students every year. At the end of the 3 years of Cyber Civics, we always say, look back at the 3 years, what unit did you like the most? And this is it. They love copyright. And I think it's because it's really creative. These kids dream of growing up someday and being a creative artist, a lot of them. They see other people making videos and all this stuff on the internet. So this really teaches them to be respectful of the creative work they find online. We tied in one of the lessons to Fortnite because it's a great example of copyright violation. They actually took the dance moves from some rap artists and used them in the game and did not, credit or pay the rap artists they took the dance moves from. So that really inspired one of our lessons. We actually have kids create dance moves so they can understand that that's something, if they put it online, they own the copyright to that. And I ran across this on Instagram from one of our schools using Cyber Civics. 7th graders inventing original dance moves for Cyber Civics lesson on copyright law. We try to keep things fun. So great to see that kids are enjoying these lessons across the US. All right, I did that really fast. Level 2 is so important because even as adults, we know that probably we need to update our information literacy skills because it's changing every single day. Again, we're updating those lessons. There's so many things changing with Bard coming, ChatGPT. Search is going to change significantly in the next few years. So we've got to stay on top of this stuff, and we're doing that for you here through our lessons. And then we finished Cyber Civics with media literacy. I don't need to tell you how important that is today. This is how to critically evaluate and creatively produce media. Headlines everywhere. Media literacy is desperately needed in classrooms around the country, advocates say. This came out during the pandemic. We're not just fighting an epidemic, we're fighting an infodemic. So this is critical for our students today. I cannot say that enough. So like the other units, we always start with kids taking a look at how they spend their time online. In the 3rd level, we really want them to understand that if they feel what they say addicted, what we say addicted, which isn't a true addiction, but if they feel that way, there's reasons for it. It's called persuasive technology. So that's what this lesson is about. We ask the kids, does it ever feel nearly impossible to put down a digital device or walk away from a computer to leave a video game, a group chat? Yes, yes, and yes. That's what the kids say. Research shows that a majority of internet users feel addicted to their devices, and there's good reason why. Persuasive technology. This is technology created specifically to change its users' opinions, attitudes, or behaviors in order to meet its goals. So we go through what each of those are and teach kids about it. Notifications, that's the ping or vibration that announces a new text message or email. And we talk about how what that does to your brain and the dopamine it releases. Very eye-opening for the students. And to teach them this at this developmental stage is very powerful because it gives them some sort of, they feel like they have power over their devices. They understand this, they can make changes. Okay, then we get into really the crux of what this is all about, critical thinking. And we have a couple lessons here where we really get deep into how to evaluate online information. And so this has also been updated based on new research from the Stanford History Group. A report from them finds that youth lack the skills to judge the reliability of information online. So we know how important this is. So this if you teach nothing else in level 3, teach these 2 lessons. And I'm going to walk you through the slides from the first one so you have an idea of how we teach kids these skills. We don't want them to get duped. They don't want to be duped, right? It's easy for just about anyone to post anything online. Therefore, you must think like a detective in order to avoid getting duped or misled. This also comes from the Stanford History Education Group. It's called lateral reading. The first thing you should do when evaluating online information is leave the page where the information appears and open a new tab on your browser where you will conduct your investigation. This is a fact-checking strategy called lateral reading. All right, and then we talk about how they discovered that fact checkers from the nation's most prestigious news organizations ask 3 essential questions when they're evaluating anything that seems fishy online. So here they are. Who is behind the information? What is the evidence for the claims? What do other sources say about the author, organization, and the claims? And, obviously in the lessons, we take kids through all the steps under each of these questions to teach them what to do. We have 3 great videos on this as well. What I haven't mentioned is we just opened this on YouTube. It's the Cyber Civics Student Hub. You can find a lot of the videos that I'm showing you today there. Please subscribe. We just opened it. Right now, our lessons are free for you to look at. Once the school year starts in the fall, they will be available to the subscribing schools only. Some of them will still be public, but this is a good time to take a look at the kind of things that we're offering. All right, then we move right into misinformation. Very important. We have, 5 lessons. We take a look at what news is today, what's fake news, don't click the bait. What's AI got to do with it? That's a brand new lesson. AI has a lot to do with misinformation today. That's where we talk about deep fakes and fake images and how to detect them and what to do if you see them. And then finally wraps up with a super fun game called Simon Says It's Fake. And that moves into Unit 4, which is media representation. Wow, this is a powerful one. The kids really, they see this all the time. And so it's important to talk about how media often depicts people in oversimplified ways, and digital technologies make it easier than ever to share and perpetuate these notions. So we have 3 lessons in that: seeing stereotypes, don't label me, the ad who knows you. That's a lot of fun. Ads know us better than we do sometimes, and they really segment us into these stereotypical groups. And that goes hand in hand with the next unit, which is visual literacy. This is a whole area of media literacy that's also so important for kids. It's a very visual culture. From Instagram to YouTube to Snapchat, messages that they see are largely visual. So this unit helps students learn how to read and create visual media. It also teaches them how to be less susceptible to visual manipulations. So one thing in cyber civics, we always try to get kids to understand that nothing is new under the sun, honestly, when it comes to this stuff. For example, we take a look at some of the early visual literacy examples. Way back in the day when it was really hard to do this because there was no Photoshop or Facetune. Photos were manipulated. In fact, this one has been manipulated. And I'll show you the kids. What we do in the lesson is we show them, they have to try to guess what the manipulation is, and then we show it to them. In this case, if you see the gentleman on the right has been added into the manipulated photo. And imagine how hard that was to do way back when you had to splice through all these pieces of film. It wasn't as easy as it is today when photo manipulation can happen in a matter of seconds. So we want them to understand that a lot of things that they see online are manipulated. And then sexting is a really important unit. We're talking about visual literacy. This is one of those things that's very visual. Sexting, sending a nude or a partially nude photo of oneself to somebody else is very serious. They can get to a lot of trouble. And In some states, those who distribute, possess, or produce sexually explicit images of a minor could be charged under their state's child pornography statutes, even if that person is a minor themselves. So we let schools know if they subscribe to any level of cyber civics, even if they don't have level 3, please call us, either Peter or I, and we will send you these 2 sexting lessons, because sadly, we've heard from some of our schools, it happens young. 5th and 6th grade teachers have called us and asked for these lessons. So we just think, every school has to determine when it's appropriate for your students to learn these important lessons. All right, future technologies. This is a great way to wrap up. We're really talking about their place in the future of technology, and, kind of our overarching objective with Cyber Civics is we want kids to be ethical, safe, and productive digital citizens as they move into their future. So we have a lot of new content in this. It's being updated right now. I love this one. I'm going to just play a few seconds of it before we move on.
Can you think of the last time you encountered AI? Maybe you had a conversation with a chatbot or unlocked your phone with your face. AI is an amazing tool that nowadays is all around us. But while this technology that can perform intelligent tasks is pretty convenient, we should also ask ourselves some questions, such as, who is creating it and for what purpose? Who is using it and how? Ethical considerations matter. Here's an example. The renowned Dutch artist Rembrandt died in 1669, yet a new Rembrandt painting was created in 2016, after the artist's death. How did this happen? Well, it was created using AI.
So anyway, that's the ethical question that the kids have to grapple with in that lesson, is like, who's the artist? Who gets the credit? Is this fair? How would you feel if your art was recreated in, a few hundred years? And that's really applicable to kids right now, because a lot of them are using these AI tools that are basically trained on data from real artists. So there's a lot of ethical considerations on that. By the way, we do CyberWise chats through our sister website, and we have a chat on Thursday at noon Pacific Standard Time on AI if you're interested. All right, so in this final unit of Cyber Civics, we stick in an extra unit where we take a look at research skills again. They're more advanced skills from what you get in level 2. All right, just a couple more things from the focus groups. Teachers told us they really like the platform where we deliver the lessons. It's really efficient and easy to use. Takes a second. We found from talking to teachers that prep time is like 10, 15 minutes. And it requires, like I said, they like that. Very little prep. It just takes a few minutes to get ready to teach these lessons. It's extremely turnkey. And that's what they say. It's really nice to have something to go to every week that's already planned for you. It's super convenient. It's right there, easy to access. Okay, and the last thing I haven't mentioned is teachers seem to like our parent letters. I love them. I use them all the time. They go home at the beginning of each unit. You write in the date that you're going to teach the lesson. Every lesson has an activity that parent and child or guardian can do together at home. This year, we'll be adding the URLs for the videos so that you can watch the video together at home and talk about what you're seeing. Okay, for parents also, we offer a whole website just for them, and teachers too if you need it, full of information, research, articles, hubs on every topic under the sun regarding kids and digital literacy and their social media apps. All right, so let's wrap up here. Why is this important? Number one, takes time. I hope that, thank you, number one, for sitting through this with me. I just quickly went through our 3 levels of 75 lessons, but you can see hopefully how it takes time. All of these things build upon each other to make sense. Digital literacy has many parts. The parts are moving and changing all the time. So, I hope that we would take that time to help kids really understand their digital world. Number 2, I think it's so important to satisfy these 4 pillars of learning. Is it active learning? Are they engaged in the learning process? Is it meaningful learning? And is there social interaction? I think that's so important, especially when you're talking digital literacy. And finally, I hope I've convinced you that it's essential. This is the world our kids are growing up in. As the name of this webinar says, digital literacy is today's literacy. We've got to prepare kids to read it, to understand it, to know to call out things that aren't true or accurate or false or mean. I just think it's so essential to prepare kids with these skills. So as promised, we have some downloads for you from some of the lessons that I quickly took a look at today. You will be getting an email tomorrow with this link, but if you just can't wait, there's the link right there. We pulled some lessons and slides and PDFs and all that from each level that you can take a look at. There's also a certificate of completion. If you were able to get through this with us today, we want you to have that if you need it as well. So both Peter and I are here, and gosh, look at that, 45 minutes, I did it. It's crazy. Happy to answer your questions. We'll stick around, as long as you want to ask us things. Feel free to put it in the chat box and we will get to it and answer it live.
Diane, a couple of people raised their hands, so if you just wanted to post your question in either the chat or the Q&A, we can get to those. But there were a couple of questions, Diane, and maybe you can chime in on lessons for high school. I know I did mention that level 3 would work for high school. Then also a question or two on K-4 resources as well.
Oh, okay. Well, number one, level 3 is great for high school. We have a lot of high schools that already use it. I love it when that happens because it's really packed. It's almost hard for an 8th grade teacher to get through the whole year. So if a high school used it, they could definitely take more time with each of the levels. I mean, each of the units within the level, but it is definitely apropos for high school. And thank you for asking about elementary school kids. We have been asked for that for so many years now that we are in the middle of developing those lessons. They're extremely SEL based. It's all about being a good person and how to prepare yourself to go online. So those are coming very soon. They won't be ready for this fall, but they'll definitely be ready for the following fall. Peter, did you have another question that you wanted me to address?
I'm typing in an answer right now, but a question.
Do you want to ask it aloud so everyone can hear?
It's about pricing, and what I'm going to say is if you just email me directly, it's all dependent on school or district size.
Okay.
So if you did have questions about pricing, you can email me.
Okay. So I'll address that here. And I see some questions in the Q&A that I can quickly address aloud, but yeah, so we are based on number of students that you teach, and it's a subscription rate the first year and a super low renewal rate. And I think schools are pretty happy with it. We experience like a 98%, I think this year it's 99% renewal every year with our schools. So I think we've got the pricing just right. It seems to be reasonable for everybody. And also, if you're a school that just cannot swing it, contact us because we will make it work for you. And then I see some questions in here. Are the lessons available in Spanish? Oh man, how I wish they were. One day. We're getting there slowly. We do have some resources on the CyberWise site in Spanish. Honestly, the reason we have not translated the whole curriculum into Spanish is because we update it so regularly. It would be a daunting task. Honestly, during the school year, as we're teaching the lesson, when things change or when something gets updated, we update it like that day in the portal. So it's a super fresh curriculum that would be so hard to do in Spanish, but I'm hoping someday we get there. Let's see. Let me just quickly read through the Q&A. I think Peter's typing away there. I'm teaching 7th, 8th graders next year who have never been exposed to cyber civics. Where do you suggest I start with them? So in that case, we have made a little document for schools. If you're jumping in with 7th or 8th grade, we'll send you a little PDF that we've made with some essential lessons from level 1 that work great in 7th and 8th grade that we suggest that you teach before you move into the full Cyber Civics curriculum. Won't take very much time. And even if you just subscribe to levels 2 and 3, we will send you those lessons from level 1. Are these typically taught in info literacy or ELA classes? Is there a workbook or activity that includes family involvement? Thank you so much for this vitally important program. You're welcome. Thank you for the shout out. These are taught all over the place. It's crazy. They're taught in ELA classes. They're often taught in the advisory period early in the morning. In a lot of our religious schools, they're taught as a religious class. In our own school, it's taught what used to be the civics block in the school. In some places, they're taught in the history block. So man, it's interesting to me to see the different ways that schools align this. And there's not a workbook, but there are student PDFs that are downloadable. So in the portal, it's called the student packet, and you can download it. The kids can either do it online, they're fillable forms, or they can write in them, whichever you prefer. How to convince a student who is judgmental and a famous in social media about the awareness it's difficult to. Okay, so that's a great question. You cannot convince this child of anything, first of all. That's why we do this with their peers in the classroom. So What I love about teaching this is kids will come to me in 6th grade and they think they're the pro because they have 1 billion followers on YouTube, and they start discovering how little they know. Those are really the kids who need the lessons the most. And it's not me teaching them. I'm the observer. I'm posing questions. They're doing activities. They're talking to their peers. They're figuring this out together. So a child in that that you described there will be learning these things from their peers. Let's see. When schools use these lessons, do teachers use assessments? Do schools give a letter grade for the classes, or do they usually give a pass or fail? So in my school, we give letter grades for this class. There are quizzes. I didn't mention that, but there are some quizzes within the curriculum. There's also a pre-test assessment and a post-test assessment, so you can see how much they learned during the school year. Let's see. I love your sample lessons. Whoa, where'd it go? And I finished reading your book. Oh, thank you. So excited. Someone read the book. Thank you for presenting the synopsis today. I will message you later about my situation. Are there any suggestions on the scope and sequence ranging from 5th through 8th grade? So we have found more and more schools start this in 5th grade. I love that because then you can take a lot more time with level 1. If you teach level 1 in 1 year, you're moving through it pretty quickly. If you have 2 years to do level 1, man, you can get deep on the lessons and the topics. As an example, I just taught that my selfie lesson where the kids look at the artists and all that. It took us 3 class periods and they really were deep. They wanted to talk about what the artist was saying and they wanted to bring their own art examples in. I mean, it was pretty cool. So if you spread it out over 2 years, you can really get deep with some of those lessons. Someone says, thank you so much. I've been working with my school to purchase this for a new class I am teaching. I'm excited to share with my district that you will be launching a K-4 materials in line with SEL. Great. Oh, my book. My book is called Raising Humans in a Digital World. It's an Amazon everywhere that books are sold, and it's in 5 different languages. So if you do, if you're a Spanish speaker or you have Spanish speaking parents, it's available in Spanish. So thank you for asking about that. Let's see. Are there any suggestions on the scope and sequence? K through 4, I mentioned earlier, we are developing a curriculum, actually 4th and 5th grade curriculum that will be kind of entry-level cyber civics. They're super fun lessons. They're really based on social emotional skills, how to be a good person, and how and why that matters when you eventually do go online. Peter, if you're still there, did I miss anything?
I am still here. Yes, there's quite a bit. There's still 4 open questions in the Q&A. You just go
Can
to
you
the
read them
top.
to me? I think I might have missed them.
This is a common question. I'm teaching 7th and 8th graders next year. I've never been exposed to cyber civics before. Where do you suggest I start with that?
I answered that. I answered that about, we have that PDF that tells them what the essential lessons are if they happen to miss them.
And then, oh, did you answer the one typically taught in info? Which
Answered that one.
yeah, a lot of librarians and media specialists, actually several teach it within their classrooms as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if we have any librarians or media specialists with us today or watching the recording, but we do offer you a special rate. We know that the burden of teaching digital literacy and media literacy often falls upon you, and we want to help you out in that regard. So if you do go to our website, which you see here, and you go under curriculum, there is a tab for you that says media librarians. So please look at that and see what your special rate is. And we're really available. Like, feel free to reach out to either Peter or myself. We're very passionate, as you might be able to tell, about teaching these lessons. We both are in the classroom working with kids, and I can tell you from personal experience, having done this 12 years now, it makes such a huge difference. And man, the light bulbs that go off and the comments that kids make, it's crazy. They need this stuff so badly. So please feel free to reach out and ask us any of your questions. Peter, do you have any last words?
A few were requesting trials or demos, and we will be able to extend you with the trial. You can email me and I can get you set up with that. And our apologies, I guess the chat box was disabled, so that's why I'm using the Q&A. We just figured that out. Thank you for whoever alerted me of that. But I'll type my email is peter@cybercivics.com. It's up on the screen there too. If you email me, I'll get you set up with the trial. And yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And if you're watching this as a video, thank you for taking the time to watch it. You will be getting an email from us with the link on where you can get your downloadable lessons and slides and videos. Check out our YouTube channel that we just started with the student videos on it. And please feel free to reach out anytime you have a question. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Oh.
Are you still typing, Peter, before I end this? Are you good for me to end?
Yeah, somebody was asking for the flyer for the librarian media specialist, so
Okay.
I told everyone they could just email us and
Okay, I'll end it then.